The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, here to go on to talk about the Pathfinder Paladin's 3rd level spells. And this is 1st edition Pathfinder, mind you, and there's quite a few awesome things that we're going to get access to here. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's dig into the spell selection that you want to look around at for 3rd level spells. And, of course, we are going to get started off with a really good one for you, and that's Angelic Aspect. For a standard action, you gain low light and 60 feet of dark vision. You also gain a resistance of 10 to cold and acid damage, and a damage reduction of 5 versus evil. Well, unless the target is evil, unless you're damaged from evil sources. You also gain wings with a fly speed of 30 feet with average maneuverability. Natural and wielded weapons count as good aligned to overcome damage reduction, and this lasts for 1 round per level. Now, this is quite a wide array of buffs there. Cold damage is great. It doesn't come up as often as fire damage, but it's still frequent enough to be worthwhile. Acid, less so, but still, that's damage you don't have to worry about taking. And then the damage reduction 5 is great, but again, like we talked about before, evil targets are what you are mechanically and lore-wise supposed to be fighting. That's what you're supposed to be going up against. So a lot of your principal enemies, some of your most dangerous enemies, are going to be ignoring this damage reduction, leaving you largely with neutral targets, good targets, and evil targets that don't have the means of overcoming damage reduction struggling against you. That still is useful, but your most dangerous foes are most likely going to be overcoming this anyways. Bear in mind, this spell also has lesser and greater versions, lesser going in at 2nd level, offering fewer buffs, and greater offering you even better buffs, such as an upgraded damage reduction and better fly speed and maneuverability. All the way around, definitely worth making use of with some degree of frequency. But of course, we still have more spells to go over, and we move on next to Draconic Malice. It's a standard action to cast for a 10-foot radius aura that removes living creatures' immunity to fear and mind-affecting abilities when it comes to your spells, abilities, and intimidate checks. Now, this is actually really great because removing those immunities makes a lot of our build options much more viable. And although you need to consult your DM first because they may have a different ruling and some circumstances may dictate otherwise, as far as I can tell and everything I can gather, most outsiders seem to count as living creatures, or just extra-dimensional creatures with some slightly different rules for living. I would say that any creatures that do not need to eat, breathe, or sleep to recover or function, although sleep maybe is less important because elves don't necessarily sleep the same way and still are able to recharge their full faculties. If they don't need to eat or breathe, they probably won't be affected by this, but otherwise I'd say most outsiders do count and you're able to remove their immunities, though again, consult your DM on this. If it does, then this spell becomes even more useful. Otherwise, this is still a handy spell for making sure that you're able to use a lot of your fear and intimidate abilities that we have already been building into. Then the next spell we have is Bestow Aura. It takes a standard action to cast to bestow one of your auras on a target within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels for 1 minute per level. You retain the personal effects of the aura. The target that you select just becomes the center for it and radiates it out to that area around them. So again, this is another strategic handy thing for you to utilize. You no longer generate the aura effects around yourself. You can select another target to provide those. You still need to remain conscious in order for this to continue to happen. All the other rules still apply. This just, if you become isolated or separated, say you use grace to stride through the enemy lines and get at a more important target, this still allows you to provide a lot of your support actions, support functions that otherwise your allies will be bereft of. Then we have Burst of Speed. Until the end of your turn, gain a 20-foot or 10-foot in medium or heavy armor bonus to your movement speed. Your movement doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity, and you can move through the occupied space of creatures larger than you, though you can't end your movement there. So this is another option for allowing you to move tactically across the battlefield, and also help to negate some of the penalties that you have for wearing heavy armor, namely the reduction to your movement speed. Now, if you have a mount and you're going with more of a mounted build, this doesn't affect you quite as much, since you're going to be, again, on your mount more often than not. But for all of you on foot paladins, this is great. This is an awesome spell to have. Just negating the attacks of opportunity alone till the end of your turn is fantastic. And this will let you get into position to strike where you can be most effective. Then we have Greater Stunning Barrier. With the standard action, you will be sheathed in a barrier that gives a +2 deflection bonus to AC and all of your saves. Any creatures that strike you in melee must make a will save or be stunned. The barrier stuns a number of opponents equal to your caster level for 1 round each. Now, that duration isn't great. 1 round isn't the best ever, but the fact that this works off of the number of times it actually stuns somebody is great, and this is a way to continuously apply this debuff to opponents in a passive manner after you've already put the barrier on yourself. So this is a really handy spell. Stunning a target allows you to get away with a lot more. It limits what your opponents are able to do. Definitely a good one to have. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts down below, and what other spells you might highly recommend, or what situations some spells you find work particularly excellently. Certainly this is not the most comprehensive spell list. These are just a handy selection of spells that will provide a significant mechanical benefit to you. It's not the most optimized or in-depth list, but still something that should be useful for you and work into this build overall. And remember, even if you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button and go on down to the comments below and still let me know your thoughts. And if you haven't done so already, go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. With all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.